Welcome back to the secret underground lair. Today we're doing some dovetail joins on the sides of the drawers. So that's the piece that I'm starting with. We're going to put in, run this piece through the router on both sides to take a little sliver off this side, flip it around, I'll take a sliver off that side. Just doing one end of each of these sides. The other end will be cut into a box joint to meet the back of the drawer. So I did a little test piece to get this calibrated the way that it needs to be. I got the anaconda set up. Hopefully just a little janky, but it's going to catch the cutoffs that come ripping off this way. And I'll set you up over here to kind of watch this operation go through. Now it's going to take a little while. There are 8 pieces to go, 2 sides on each piece, and an operation to flip it around and clamp it. You can see that I have a little guide block here that helps keep the piece, this sits flat on here, and because it's clamped on the board, that helps keep it oriented vertically. So after I make one cut, I'm going to unclamp it, flip the board around, clamp it back on again, and then run through the other side. So a little bit of an operation. I'll have you on fast forward for this. But that is the start of today's adventure. So there are all the dovetail joints cut in the ends of the sides. And just for a little bit of reference, this is the test piece that I cut to get all those things lined up, and that dovetail joint worked out pretty well. So I'm pleased with how that meets. That's a piece of maple dovetailed into a piece of red oak. That's the bottom side, so you're not really going to see it. And the top is going to appear like this. So the dovetail join actually ends about a ½ an inch beyond the end of this. You can see a little pencil mark. So that we have a little bit of shoulder on the side that covers up the end of the dovetail slot on the drawer front. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see that operation happening next, right after we cut the drawer fronts to length at 16 1/4. So I'll get the fence set up, drawer fronts over here, and we'll cut those. Okay, my fence is set up to provide a stop at 16 1/4 inches. I've got a little bit of clearance here, so I'm not going to get jammed up as I push through. Turn on the anaconda, and away we go. Okay, there's our tops cut to the exact size they need to be. Now we're going to put in our little dovetail, blind dovetail hole or slot in these pieces. Back to the router table. So the way I have this jig set up, putting the piece through this like this way will set up the side of the drawer to be exactly, this side of the drawer will be exactly 3/8 of an inch away from the edge of the drawer, which is exactly the right distance to provide the ½ inch clearance that I need for the drawer slide. The problem is, it is exactly the right distance that I need. And if I have miscalculated anywhere by a 1/16 of an inch, then if I'm too wide, then the drawer is just not going to be able to get into the slot with the drawer slide in place without doing some really nasty kind of gouging out of the legs. So what I'm going to do is give myself a 16th inch clearance. The drawer slides do have some give. They can take up a space, but they can't give more space. So I'm going to move this fence back a 16th of an inch from the blade, and then we'll run the pieces through. Sometimes exact is not what you want. I'll put it another way. Your exactness needs to account for clearance and variations. So I'm ready to make the cuts on our drawer slides, or drawer fronts rather. And I need to be cutting up we're cutting up about 3.5 inches up here in this way, and cut 3.5 inches this way. Of course, going this way is fine. That's the direction that pulls the piece into the fence. But then to cut this side, I can't just come over here and do it that way. Otherwise, I'd be going, one cut comes down here, and one cut comes up here. So I have a slot here, and I have a slot here. So I have to be mindful of this, and this side has to come forward this way. Unfortunately, that also tends to push the piece away from the fence. So this is a little bit more of a tricky cut to make. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to make 4 cuts on all pieces this way, and then I'm going to kind of get oriented, so make all 4 cuts coming the other direction. I'll be set up and ready for it. So I don't want to switch between the different kinds of cuts if I can avoid it. I've put a mark on the fence where I want this to stop, so I'm just going to push this piece through until I get to that mark. The stopping point is not critical because the shoulder of the tenon is going to be covering the end of that anyway. All right, got the anaconda set up here. We'll see what happens next. Okay, our next step is to cut all our side pieces down by 1/2 inch to 16.5, and then we'll start the process of creating the box joints. So first, get these to length. Okay, set up the box joint jig. All right, have the dado blade set up, jig set up on the fence. I did a little test piece, make sure that things are gonna fit okay. And I'm satisfied with that result on some test pieces. So we begin. And I am going to start, I'm gonna put 2 sides together and do them both at the same time. I hope that's not a mistake, but I think that will help us keep things consistent, at least as consistent as I can. So that fits together really nicely, and just a touch proud, 32nd inch proud. That's going to be good. That's really good. All right, do the other end. So I'm going to put you on fast forward or time lapse while I do the remaining drawers. It is a little bit tough pushing 1.5 inches of maple through a blade, but it's getting there. I'm probably pushing that a little bit hard, but it is doing the job. So enjoy the music, the montage, and away we go. Okay, so we have our dovetails cut, our finger joints cut for the box tail joint on the rear of the drawer. The last operation required on these drawers now is to cut a slot at the bottom, 1/4 inch wide, that will accommodate the bottom of the drawer. That's a 1/4 inch piece of plywood that will go in there. So I'm going to do that operation on the router, and for the sides and the back, it's just a straight through cut all the way. However, on the front, we have to stop when we get to the dovetails. So that'll be just a cut across here. I don't want that slot coming through the side of the drawer. Coming through the side of the drawer front, rather. So keep everything blind. But I'll set up the router with the bit and the fence, and we'll get started on that operation. All right, I've got all our pieces stacked up here, and I've taken the time to mark every piece where I want that line, where I want the line to, our slot cut for the drawer bottom. So I have them stacked up and oriented such that I'll just kind of take them off the pile, flip them over, set them down, cut them. So again, just kind of organizing for the most efficient way to work through a pile of wood. And I'm going to do, I've set the drawer bottoms off to the side, so I'll come back and do those separately. So that last little bit broke the rotor bit. So I'll get another rotor bit put in there and we'll carry on. Okay, got a new rotor bit put in place. And by the way, the blade that broke, or the bit that broke, was not one of my little $9 surplus store blades. That was actually a Freud bit. So it was an expensive spiral upcut. So we're going with a lower cost bit at the moment. That's all I have on hand, so we'll see how this does. I've been doing this backwards. It really should be going this way. Going this way is what's pushing it away from the blade. Quick change of setup here, I'll be right back. Let's see if this makes it any better. Of course, with just 2 boards left to cut, I'll have the drawer bottoms too, or fronts. So there is a drawer, just a quick dry fit on the drawer assembly now. A couple cuts to make yet. Obviously the drawer bottoms, so we've got to cut them out. And then for the sides, just need to cut off a little bit of the shoulder up here, knock that off, because the drawer fronts, we want to be able to cover up all of this slot here with the shoulder of the side. So just going to cut off a little wee bit on that, and then that'll fit right in, cover everything up nice. And we're on to drawer bottoms. So just taking our dovetail end here and just cutting off that last little bit of shoulder. Okay, we're ready for cutting out drawers. So we'll just assemble one drawer loosely to make sure we have an exact measurement right from the piece itself. Then we'll cut the bottoms for the drawers. So that is the look of a drawer. Of course, sans bottom. But yeah, overall pleased with that. So we've got our blind dovetail joint holding the front onto the sides of the drawer. And we've got our box joint on the rear holding everything together back here. So pleased with that result. Next bit is cutting the bottoms, and then of course my favorite part, yours too I'm sure, sanding, sanding, sanding. I'm going to sand as much as I can of this table with the pieces apart before gluing it together. So that goes for the tables themselves and for the drawers. But we now have everything except the bottoms cut to size. Ran into a slight problem with my plywood supply, and that is I'm 1/8 of an inch short to get the pieces, well, probably more like 3/8 of an inch short to get what I need for the drawer bottom. So I'll have to do a little excursion and figure out how to deal with that. But that's for another day. So for now, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.